At first, I thought it was wind threading through roots. We'd been walking for hours, deep enough that the trail had dissolved into suggestion. No markers, no footprints but our own. The air carried that dense, green smell of old growth. Wet bark, crushed fern, loam layered thick with years of decay. It clung to the back of the throat. Mara stopped so abruptly that Daniel nearly walked into her. "Do you hear that?" We held still. The forest held still with us. No birds, no insect drone, no distant creak. Just the faint tick of cooling metal from Daniel's compass swinging uselessly at his belt. Then it came again. A hum, soft, tuneless at first, just a low vibration rising and falling, like breath passing through closed lips. It wasn't loud. It didn't echo. It felt close. Too close. Mara tilted her head. "That's not wind." The sound thickened, shaping itself into a melody. Slow, repetitive, the kind of lullaby you hum without thinking, rocking something small in your arms. But it didn't come from ahead of us. It came from beneath our boots. Daniel stepped back instinctively, scraping leaves aside. The soil was dark and spongy, layered with rot and roots like veins under thin skin. The humming didn't stop. It didn't get louder either. It simply persisted, vibrating faintly through the ground. I crouched and pressed my palm to the earth. The vibration answered, not strong enough to rattle bone, just enough to confirm contact. A resonance moving through the dirt, threading between roots. "It's underground," I said. Mara shook her head. "No, it's inside it." The melody clarified. For descending notes. A pause. For again. Gentle, patient. I tried to place it, something half-remembered from childhood, but it slipped away whenever I reached for it. Daniel forced a laugh. "Okay, fine. Maybe there's a cave system. Sound travels." "There's no limestone here," Mara replied automatically. She was the one who'd chosen this forest, the one who'd studied its maps and geology. And no caves mapped within 30 miles. The humming shifted key. The trees around us creaked. Not from wind, but from tension. Their trunks leaned subtly inward, bark ridged and damp. The canopy above sealed tight, branches woven so thickly that daylight filtered through in fractured, green shards. It felt like standing at the bottom of a throat. "We should go back," Daniel said. We turned. The way we'd come looked wrong. Not erased, just narrower. The ferns seemed taller, their fronds angled inward like ribs. The ground rose slightly where it had been flat. It would still be possible to push through, but it would not be easy. The humming continued. Mara took a step forward instead. "Don't," I said. "It wants us to hear it." The word slipped out before I could stop it. We all heard the implication. The forest was not empty. Mara knelt and brushed away the top layer of leaves. Damp soil gave way to a darker, compacted layer beneath. The humming deepened as her fingers pressed down, as if the pressure coaxed it closer. Daniel crouched beside her. "If something's buried, it's not trapped," she said softly. "It's settled." The melody looped again. For notes. Pause. For a memory surfaced, sharp and unwanted. My grandmother's kitchen. Evening light slanting through lace curtains. The same melody drifting from another room while someone rocked something out of sight. I swallowed. "You know it too." Mara didn't look up. "Yes." Daniel hesitated. "I've heard it." The realization passed between us without words. The lullaby was personal. The forest floor shuddered faintly. Not an earthquake. Not a tremor. A shift, roots tightening, soil compacting. The humming multiplied, harmonizing with itself in faint, overlapping layers. There wasn't one source. There were many. We stood slowly. The sound no longer came from a single patch of ground. Traveled underfoot, migrating in gentle waves, encircling us. Wherever we stepped, the vibration met us. "They're moving," Daniel whispered. The trees responded. Bark peeled in long vertical strips, exposing pale wood beneath. Sap bled in thin lines, catching the filtered light. The smell intensified, sweet, metallic, almost floral. The humming rose half a note. I realized then that it was not merely a song. It was a calibration. The soil beneath my boots felt softer now, less stable. My heels sank slightly, though I hadn't shifted weight. Roots brushed against the leather, no, not brushed. Adjusted. Mara stepped back, eyes wide. It's mapping us. The ground vibrated in a new pattern. Short pulses beneath Daniel, longer under me. The melody adapted, modulating around our positions. The forest wasn't reacting to our presence. It was incorporating it. Move, I said. We tried. The first step felt like walking through deep mud. The second met resistance from below, roots tightening, weaving. The forest floor did not harden. It yielded just enough to guide. The humming softened, becoming soothing. The melody slipped deeper into memory. I saw my childhood bedroom in impossible clarity. The wallpaper pattern, the exact angle of moonlight across the dresser. The lullaby drifting through the wall from my mother's voice. But my mother never sang. The dissonance snapped something loose. This isn't memory, I breathed. It's construction. The forest fed us versions of ourselves back to us, stitching them into the soil. Daniel stumbled, his foot plunging ankle-deep into earth that had been solid moments before. He yanked free with a wet suction sound. The soil reformed instantly. "Stop listening to it," he shouted. The humming faltered just slightly. The trees leaned closer. Above us, the canopy rippled. Not with wind, with attention. The melody changed again. It slowed. The pauses lengthened. The notes descending into a lower register that resonated more in bone than ear. I felt it behind my eyes, along the base of my skull. Mara's expression softened. "It's not hostile," she said dreamily. Her boots sank half an inch. "Mara." She looked down as if noticing for the first time. The soil around her ankles pulsed faintly, synchronized with the lullaby. Roots coiled, not constricting, just touching, testing. The humming beneath me answered in kind. It wanted equivalence. I closed my eyes. The melody sharpened instantly. When I opened them, the forest had shifted. The trunks were thicker, the undergrowth denser, the path behind us gone entirely. We were deeper without moving. "It's not buried," I said, finally understanding. "It is the forest." The humming was not emerging from something beneath. It was the vibration of the entire root network, a vast, subterranean lattice humming in unison, an ancient system of growth and decay, of absorption and renewal. The lullaby was how it identified what could be folded in gently. Daniel grabbed my arm. "We have to break the pattern." "How?" He bent, scooped up a rock, and slammed it against a nearby trunk. The sharp crack splintered the quiet. The humming stopped. Instantly, the silence that replaced it was heavier than before, pressurized. The air thickened as if the forest had inhaled and refused to exhale. The roots around our feet tightened. Not violently, just enough. Mara's voice came out thin. "It didn't like that." The soil began to rise. Not in mounds, in subtle elevation, lifting us a fraction at a time. The humming returned, not soothing now, not melodic, structured. A chord held too long. The trees straightened abruptly, bark sealing over pale scars. The canopy sealed tighter still, plunging us into green-shadowed dimness. The melody resolved into something unmistakable. A final, descending cadence. An ending. The ground stilled. Daniel's grip on my arm loosened. I looked down. His boots remained. His legs did not. There was no tearing, no blood, just absence below the knee, the soil smooth and undisturbed as if it had never been otherwise. The humming resumed, softer than ever. Mara stared at the ground where he had stood. "He's part of it," she whispered. The roots beneath us shifted again, redistributing. The lullaby changed key once more. It sounded fuller. I understood then. The melody we recognized was not memory. It was inheritance. Each of us had known it because it had always been underfoot, threaded through the ground wherever forests took root. A vibration passed through generations, encoded in soil. The forest did not lure. It recruited. Mara and I stood in the hush, the humming weaving around us, no longer testing but assessing. Waiting for alignment. The trees leaned in slightly. The soil beneath my boots warmed. The lullaby softened into something almost tender. And somewhere deep below, in a register too low to hear but impossible not to feel, a third voice joined the song. A figure made of fog stood in our path, pointing deeper into the woods. It wasn't there a moment ago. We had been walking for hours beneath the dim, green hush of the canopy, following a trail that thinned into suggestion and then into nothing at all. The forest around us was old in the way that feels aware. Pines rose like pillars, their trunks blackened with damp, their crowns knitting together so tightly the sky became a rumor. The air smelled of wet bark and cold earth, of mushrooms pushing up through rot. Every footstep released a sigh from the ground. And then the fog gathered. It slid between the trees as if poured from an unseen hand, low at first, curling around our boots. I remember thinking it was strange. There had been no mist all morning, no temperature drop, no warning. "Do you see that?" Mara whispered. I did. The fog ahead thickened, rising with slow intention. It shaped itself into something upright. Shoulders, a head bowed slightly forward, one arm elongated, tapering into a pale suggestion of fingers. Those fingers pointed between two leaning birches where the forest deepened into a narrow throat of shadow. It did not move otherwise. It did not breathe. It simply indicated. No face, no features, just a density within the vapor, a presence defined by absence. The forest went quiet. Not gradually, abruptly. The insects stopped mid-drone. The wind dropped as though cut. Even the leaves seemed to hold themselves still. Mara took a step back. I didn't. Something inside me stirred. Not courage, not curiosity exactly. Recognition. A feeling like seeing someone across a crowded room and knowing you've met before, though you can't place when. "It's just fog," I said, though my voice came out thinner than I intended. The figure's arm extended a fraction further. The path behind us had faded. I swear to you, when we turned, the trees had rearranged themselves. The way back, clear and obvious minutes before, had become a wall of bramble and knotted roots. The birches we'd passed were gone. In their place stood a cluster of ash trees slick with moisture, their bark scarred with long vertical splits. "Okay," Mara breathed. "That's not funny." I hadn't laughed. The pointing did not waver. We should have refused. We should have pushed through the undergrowth and forced our own direction. But the forest felt thick with resistance, like walking into water. And the space the figure indicated between those two birches seemed almost expectant. "Waiting. Just a little," I said. "We go a little, and then we turn around." The fog figure did not follow. It dissolved the instant we stepped past it, unraveling into nothing more than a thin wash of mist that soaked into our clothes. The trees closed behind us. The deeper woods were different. The light shifted from green to a bruised gray. Moss climbed higher on the trunks, and the ground softened into peat that swallowed sound. Our steps made no noise. Even our breathing felt stolen. There were marks on the bark, not carved, pressed. Indentations like the imprint of fingers, dozens of them, reaching upward, as though the trees themselves had been grasped. "Do you remember this?" Mara asked. I almost said no, but I did. A flicker, childhood, maybe, running between trees that felt taller than mountains. A game of hide and seek. Someone calling my name from too far away. The memory slipped before I could grasp it. The forest shifted again. I don't mean metaphorically. The spacing of the trunks changed. Paths opened and sealed. Roots rose where there had been none. The air thickened, carrying a low vibration that I felt more in my bones than in my ears. We were being guided. Not herded, guided. There was patience in it, an intelligence. Another figure appeared ahead, half-formed between branches. This one not pointing but standing with its head tilted, as if listening. Mara saw it too. Her hand found mine without speaking. "Why does it feel like we've done this before?" she asked. The question settled into me like a stone. We walked toward the second figure. As we approached, it retreated, not by moving, but by thinning, drawing us onward. Always just beyond reach. My phone buzzed in my pocket. No signal, of course, but the screen was lit. A notification from years ago. A photo I didn't recognize at first. Two children standing at the edge of a treeline. The date unreadable. The faces blurred. The background, these trees. I dropped the phone. When I bent to retrieve it, the ground had changed. The peat was gone, replaced by packed soil scored with concentric circles, like growth rings in wood. The forest was older here, older than memory. The fog figures multiplied, not crowding us, not touching, but forming a corridor. Their shapes varied, some tall and narrow, others bent. A few seemed almost small, childlike. They all faced inward, toward us. The air carried whispers now, not words but patterns. Cadence without language. My name threaded through it once, faint as breath on glass. Mara squeezed my hand too tightly. "They're not threatening," she said, as if convincing herself. "They're waiting." For what? The corridor led to a clearing we both remembered and did not. A shallow depression in the earth. A ring of stones half buried in moss. At its center, a stump, fresh cut though no saw marks showed. The moment we stepped inside the ring, the whispers stopped. The fog figures gathered at the perimeter. Watching, the stump pulsed. Not visibly, but I felt it in my chest, a synchronized thud. Memory fractured. We had been here. Not hiking, not exploring. Running, laughter, dares, promise to return. A game where one of us would hide, and the others would follow the voice calling from the trees. "Don't go too far," someone had warned. One of us had. The forest leaned inward. The stump's surface rippled like disturbed water. Within it, shapes moved, faces pressing against a thin membrane. Familiar faces, children's faces. One of them was mine. Mara staggered back. "That's not possible." But it was. I remembered now. There had been 3 of us. Not 2. We had followed something into the deeper woods. Something pale that pointed. We had thought it was funny. A trick of mist. The third voice had gone silent first. We had searched, called, promised to stop playing. The forest had answered instead. The stump's surface broke. Fog poured out, thick and cold, wrapping around my ankles. Climbed my legs with intimate familiarity. It smelled of sap and damp stone and something sweet, like decay softened by time. The figures at the ring bowed. Not to us, to the clearing, to the forest itself. Mara tried to pull me away, but my feet would not move. Roots had threaded through the soil, weaving around my boots, not tight enough to hurt, just enough to anchor. "You stayed?" a voice murmured. Not from the fog, not from the trees, but from within my own skull. "You promised." The memory returned in full. We had been frightened. We had run. I had looked back. He had not. He had stepped toward the pointing figure instead. Smiling. "I'll be right back," he'd said. We never saw him again. We told no one the truth. The forest did not forget. The fog around me thickened, rising to my chest. My skin tingled, not with cold but with dissolution, as if my edges were softening. Mara's face blurred. "I'm sorry," I tried to say, though I wasn't sure to whom. The stump split fully open, revealing a hollow beneath. Inside, the third child stood unchanged. Not older, not decayed, made of fog. He pointed. Not at Mara, at me. The understanding was sudden and absolute. The forest did not take. It exchanged, kept balance. One had been left, one had fled, one had remained. The corridor of figures shifted, creating a path outward for Mara. She screamed my name. The roots tightened. The fog entered my mouth, my lungs, filling spaces that had always felt empty. My thoughts thinned into vapor. My heartbeat slowed until it matched the pulse of the clearing. I felt the forest not as surroundings but as extension. Sap rising, fungi threading miles beneath soil, the slow turning of seasons like breath. Ancient, patient, sentient, Mara broke free of the ring. The path behind her cleared, straight, undeniable. For her alone, as she ran, the last solid part of me dissolved. My skin became mist, my bones cool vapor, my sight fractured into 1,000 drifting perspectives between branches. I stood at the edge of the clearing, formed anew, a figure made of fog. The third child stepped from the stump, solidifying with each breath I lost. Color returned to his cheeks, weight to his limbs. He did not look back. He ran toward the path Mara had taken. I tried to call out. Only a whisper left me, threading through leaves. The forest quieted once more. In time, footsteps will return to this place. Laughter, dares, promises made too easily beneath old trees. When they do, I will be waiting. I will stand in their path, and I will point.